We are doing 1.7, day 4. We're determining if these things are linear or nonlinear. So the first thing we're going to look at is graphs, and the best way to determine if something's linear is if it's a straight line. That's it. So the first one here is a straight line. That's linear. The second one is not a straight line. That's nonlinear. That's literally what the word linear comes from. It's got the word line in it. That's a curve, so it's not linear. This one is linear. This one is nonlinear. Nonlinear. And linear. Pretty simple for the first ones there. Just put straight line. If it's a straight line, it's linear. These ones are still not that difficult. If you have an x to the first power, and usually when you have an x to the first power, you don't see the first power, but obviously that would be the second power, or this would be the third power, right? So I'm looking for x to the first power on these. This one here has an x to the first power, the first one, so this is linear. Even though it's a 2 times x to the first power, that's what we're looking for, x to the first power. So that's linear. This one's also linear because it's got an x to the first power, even though you don't see it there. There's an x to the first power there. This one's got x to the second power. That means it's nonlinear. This next one has x to the first power. That's linear. This one here doesn't really have an x, but I could rewrite this if I wanted to as y equals 0x plus 9, right? I could write it like that. And that's the same thing, because 0 times x would cancel that out. That's why it's not there. It's just a 9 there. So that's 0 times x to the first power. It could be written as x to the first power and mean the same thing, so this is linear. That's a tricky one. If you don't have an x, then it's still probably linear. The next one is non, because that's x to the third power. This one is 2 to the x power. That's not linear because it's not x to the first power. It's x as your exponent. So nonlinear. This one here is linear. On that one, you might have to solve for x to figure, or solve for y to figure that one out. So if I subtract 2x on both sides, I'll be left with 4y equals negative 2x minus 8, divided by 4 on both sides. I would get y equals negative 1/2. I simplified that fraction. X minus 2. That's still an x to the first power. That's linear. And then your last one, you could simplify this one as well, but you would get y minus 4 equals, I'm going to distribute 2x minus 10, add 4, add 4. We get y equals 2x. I guess that's a minus 6, but that's linear because we have x to the first power there, even though we don't see it. On the next one, it says plot the following coordinate plane. Plot the points on the coordinate plane. So I'm going to go really quickly through this. If it looks like that, that means the point we're talking about is 2, negative 7, which is located right there. The next one is 0, negative 6, which is right there. 3, 0. Negative 5, 4. Oh, that's 3. Right there. Negative 1, negative 4. And 4, 2. That's it. Next one, it says we're trying to figure out if these are linear or not, and we're just basically going to plug these points into this function and then plot them and see if they make a straight line. So plugging in negative 2, you guys can do this on a calculator or take some more time. I'm going to go pretty quick. So that would be 5. This one would be 1. This one would be negative 3. And that 4 there would be negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. So then I got to plot them. So at negative 2, 5, there's a point there. 0, 1, 2, negative 3, and 4, negative 7. Right there. And we got to try to determine if this is a straight line. To me, that looks like it's a pretty straight line. I would call that linear. Here's your other one. Plugging in a negative 2 for that, we would get negative 1 minus 1, which would be negative 2. Plugging in a 0, we would get negative 1. Plugging in a 2, we would get a 0. And plugging in a 4, we would get a 1. So negative 2, negative 2, 0, negative 1, 2, 0, 4, 1. Again, I'm making a pretty straight line out of those. That's linear as well.